Blue, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Brandon Brown, joined as always by Chris Breiler.
I was going to start by saying go blue.
All right, let's try this again. Let's try this again because I tried to get a little cute, tried to come out with a little Lionel Richie, and actually had nothing to do with that. My battery power was just too low. Computer.
You know what I think it is? Maybe you think so highly of Apple products that you don't even think they need to be charged. You just think like Steve Jobs got it so right that these things just run infinite.
Instead, we get a little ad to launch this live stream at 7 o'clock. I'm up to 25% on battery now. We should be good. It doesn't sound like I don't see any choppiness. I hear crystal clear audio.
Good.
We got the numbers are back in. People are back. Thank you, CJ. One of our best starts we've ever had. I was telling Chris when I was trying to figure out what the hell was going on. This is coming up on show like 125. Yeah. And we have had very, very few technical difficulties. Very few. So for a couple dudes in their basement with a laptop and some web products, like I feel like it's gone pretty well, but not earlier. So apologies.
But we're back.
To you guys, apologies.
Listen, I'm not going to wait for the people. I'm not going to wait for the people to say it. Mm-hmm. We got on today and we're rocking like a uniform apparel.
Same shirt.
Right? Same exact
shirt.
I don't know.
Yours is a slightly, maybe like a touch greener than mine.
Well, I've got different lighting over here. I think we look good. I think people notice.
But
people are happy with what they can see on the screen here. We're looking good. Pulled it out, showed it to you.
You did. You did. And I really appreciate everybody coming back. I think there's actually more people on now than there were.
Well, they probably want to know what the hell happened there.
When we freaking bombed earlier. But anyway, yeah. Oh, they look white or gray. No, definitely a light blue.
We're not going to have that debate.
Interesting. Thank you, Sean. I didn't. Okay.
So, is there anything to talk about?
No. We're just going to be on here for a quick 10 minutes. We'll talk about our shirts. We'll talk about the weekend, and then we'll get out of it. No. It's the elephant in the room right now. It's Michigan football recruiting in the month of June. Let's start there. Let's start there first. That yes, it is June. It's not like signing day is next week. It's not like the season's even next week. But if you don't think that there's a little bit going wrong right now with what Michigan is doing on the recruiting trail, I can't help you, because I understand that Michigan did a lot of their work last year after the month of June, after the month of July, but this is different because other schools that typically don't recruit as well are recruiting well. Michigan State's recruiting well. Northwestern's recruiting well. Stanford is recruiting well. Notre Dame is whooping ass. Notre Dame usually does pretty good, but they're even doing better than they typically do. And all the while, Michigan is sitting here transformational, not transactional, Chris. And that's what we're going to be. Yeah, that looks cool on the wall in a frame, but it's not putting signatures on paper, I don't think. Again, it's June. We got a while, but there is something afoot here, is there not? I don't think we need to be out on the ledge just yet, Chris, but there's something going on.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. I feel like if you look at social media and you listen to the way people are talking, some of them are acting like, the fan base is, about to go off the deep end. And I think for the most part, it's just the realization that, it's not going as well as you might have expected or hoped coming off of such a successful season. And we talked about this on the last show that, again, it's early, it's June, we get that. But if you're the University of Michigan and you're coming off of a championship year where you beat the shit out of Ohio State, you win a Big Ten title, and you go to the college football playoff, it is not acceptable at the end of June to be number 13th in the Big Ten in recruiting rankings and number 55 nationally. I don't care. You can tell me, and I've seen it on social media. Well, Michigan was here last year. They only had 6 commits at this point last year. Guess what? They didn't win a Big Ten championship last year. They didn't beat Ohio State last year. They didn't do all those things that they did off of this previous season. And so to me, those things aren't equal. And I know that we're going to get into the whole NIL thing and we're going to have this discussion, but to me, I think Michigan has more of a messaging problem on NIL than they do players not having opportunity. We know that JJ McCarthy has signed lucrative deals. We know that Cade McNamara has signed lucrative deals. We can see that they're posting about it. But the problem is we don't know about it. We don't know what they're doing at Michigan. We don't know what the guys are making. We don't know what kind of NIL dollars are flowing through that program. It's all a big mystery. And so to me, even if Michigan is doing it right behind the scenes, that's a problem because perception is reality. And the perception right now is that Michigan isn't doing enough NIL wise, and it's going to cost them. And oh, by the way, that's not just, shitty, angry fans who want something to complain about all the time. There is a star player named Hunter Dickinson who a couple months ago said Michigan is going to lose out on talent if they don't step up to the plate and play ball. And so I think you're starting to see a little bit of that right now. Is the sky falling? No. But the suggestion that there's this wave coming of, 5-star and 4-star recruits that can't wait to get here, maybe that'll happen, but it's certainly not trending that way.
Yeah, and I don't think, I'm seeing the comments, and I'm not going to try to disparage what anybody's saying and say that you're crazy or you just don't get it. But it's look, I covered recruiting for 7 years, day in and day out, and this is different than it's been in the past because NIL is now a very real thing and it is humming along and lots of other programs are running with it and Michigan's not. And the transfer portal, that's a different animal when it comes to recruiting, but that's also working differently now and other teams are utilizing it and Michigan's not. And that's going to affect things down the line. Guess what? I would put Michigan's over under at 10.5 games in 2022 and probably take the over. There is a very real chance that they are 11-0 when they get ready to play Ohio State in Columbus at the end of the year. There's 3 games to worry about. Yeah. It's at Iowa, where they're going to be favored. It's at home against Michigan State, where they're going to be favored. And it's at home against Penn State, where they're going to be favored. And then you've got the big one at the end of the year to play Ohio State in Columbus. That's it. So that's another thing I keep seeing. And I'm not saying that people who take this path and try to defend what's going on with this line of thinking, because they're not wrong. Michigan's going to kick ass this year. They have a lot of talent right now. They're going to be really good. That has nothing to do with the recruiting struggles that we're seeing in 2023 and beyond. And it's really rearing its head right now. We already saw CJ Carr pick Notre Dame. That kid's been committed to Michigan since the day he was born until now he's not. Dante Moore looks like he's picking Oregon. He hasn't yet, but he's out. He was out there. All the signs are pointing to him not picking Michigan. That one has been basically a layup for several years, and Michigan's not getting it done. For whatever reason, I'm not trying to put blame on anybody necessarily, but there are a lot of different layers and a lot of different reasons and a lot of different angles on why this is the way it is right now. Your head coach trying to get an NFL job on National Signing Day last year, not awesome. Not awesome. I don't care that Michigan had all their work done. That doesn't look good. That does not look good from the outside. Michigan, I can't say they're dropping the ball when it comes to NIL because, like you said, Chris, we know that guys are pulling in some big money, but we wouldn't know unless we actually talked to some people behind the scenes and did a little digging. The marketing has been absolutely cheeks when it comes to Michigan and what they're doing.
Terrible.
You've got Ryan Day in a public forum saying, we need $13.5 million to be competitive. Cool. Michigan not doing anything like that. And if you don't like that approach, then you're going to get left behind, man. You're going to get absolutely dusted and left behind. That's it.
And here's what I want to say about that. There seems to be this perception among the fans that there is going to be a course correction when it comes to NIL and that Michigan, they don't know how Michigan's playing it, but they believe that Michigan is playing it smart and that sooner or later, all of these programs that are going, head first into NIL, it's going to come back to bite them. We talked about this before we went live. Braylon Edwards is one of them. Braylon Edwards is Michigan's all-time leading receiver. And not more than a couple weeks ago, he flat out said, it's okay if Michigan doesn't compete for national championships as long as we're doing things the right way. What is the right way in NIL? And I'll use a perfect example. We talked about Dante Moore. Dante Moore, by all accounts, is a great kid. Phenomenal student, 4.0 student. We know what he can do on the football field. Explain to me Why we know Michigan can't, but why there is not a system in place to throw a bag at a kid like Dante Moore to get him to stay home where he belongs. It's just not in place. And I'm blown away by this idea that there's going to be a course correction. I don't think there's going to be a course correction. I think this is the way things work. And if you're the University of Michigan, you've been looking around at the Bamas and the Clemsons and the Ohio States saying, how the hell can we bridge the gap? We've got the academic side. How can we compete with the big boys? And then NIL comes along and it allows you to bridge the gap. It allows you to do things above board and actually pay these guys. And for some odd reason, Michigan as a brand is resistant to fully embracing that. And I think Hunter Dickinson was right when he said it, a couple months back. If Michigan doesn't play ball, if they want to stand on the moral high ground when it comes to NIL, that's fine. But it is going to cost them on the recruiting trail. And it's okay to acknowledge that. You can already see that. Don't tell me where Michigan was this time last year. Where was Michigan State this time last year? Look at what's going on in East Lansing. Look at what some of these other programs are doing. Again, the sky isn't falling, but the messaging on NIL from the University of Michigan is terrible. And they need to drop the whole transformative, not transactional, because that is not, you can feel that way and you can think that, but you can't go out and have that be your motto in today's college football. You can't do that.
I know somebody texted me this, but I also think I've seen it tweeted and just put out there a bunch of different ways. You know what's transformational, Chris? A big-ass transaction for some of these kids. That's what what the saying should be. Because if you are, coming from a background not of privilege and you get $500,000, dude, that's transformational. That's changing you and your family's life, at least for a little while. And then if you go on and do the right thing and play the right way and shine on the field, then you're good. I mean, that's not the story for every single player. I understand. But why are people I just don't even know how to put it into words without sounding like I'm bashing so hard on what Michigan's doing. But I just can't imagine a place where people were I don't really think Jim Harbaugh believes it personally, but why would anybody expect a kid not to want to take that route? Go get you some money. You're clearly worth it. That's another part. If someone's willing to give it to you, then you're worth it. And or do the opposite. Go somewhere else where they're not doing that just because it doesn't even make sense. There's not even a way to put it into words really as to why a kid would choose that route. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, well, now you're talking about pay for play. That's not the same thing as what NIL was designed for. Well, that's great, but it's happening. And so nothing's being done to stop it. There are loopholes. There's ways around it. It's not the school facilitating the deal. It's boosters and different people behind the scenes. There's ways to talk about it in a way that's not technically under the pay for play umbrella. You got to do it. You got to do it. You cannot just lean back and say, we're Michigan, we'll be good. You're not going to be good. You're not going to be good. That's it. It's just one of these things that you're not going to see any poor results because of this on the field this year. It's going to be maybe not even next year, because we're talking about 2023 kids, the kids that aren't even going to graduate high school until this time next summer. Those kids are going to come onto campus. You'll get a few here and there that will play as true freshmen, but you're really not going to start to see the impacts of what's going on right now until the following season and maybe the season after that. When these current high school seniors are sophomores and juniors in college, that's when you're going to feel the impact of what's happening right now. So it's kind of a weird thing. You're going to have to wait a long time to really see if this is bad. But I'm telling you right now, like you said, Michigan being 13th in the Big Ten in recruiting and 55th in the country. And when you look at the targets that Michigan still has left, there isn't some big wave that's coming. There just isn't. 75 or 80% of the top 50 prospects are already committed. Michigan's not flipping those guys. I mean, very, very few of them will be flipping to Michigan, if any. And so this is an issue. This is a problem that's starting to build right now that if it's felt, it will be a ways down the road. Michigan's the defending Big Ten champs. That's amazing. They're going to be really freaking good this year. That's amazing. But this is happening right now. Recruiting is the lifeblood of college football programs, and you cannot afford to miss for a whole class or back-to-back classes. And that is what's going to start happening. I have a feeling that it's already happening. You're seeing guys that Michigan should absolutely be getting, and they're not. And you're seeing guys that Michigan was once in the lead for, eliminating them off of their list and then committing elsewhere. We just saw a couple more today. Chris Tarek, underrated recruit, 3-star lineman, grew up a Michigan fan, was at the Washington game last year, just took his official visit a couple weeks ago, commits to Wisconsin today. Jonte Cook, I never really thought he was coming to Michigan. We talked about this. Like, he got down to his finalists of Texas, Oregon, and Michigan. He's a wide receiver. He wants to catch a ton of balls. I'll just go commit to Texas, where I'm from. Sarkisian airs it out. They got Arch Manning, and oh, by the way, I'll probably make $500,000.
Yeah, it's also worth mentioning. It's also worth mentioning Xavier Worthy, who was once a Michigan Wolverine, at least briefly. What do you have? 60-some receptions his freshman year down in Texas. So again, you have a kid like Cook looking at those numbers, who wants to catch the ball. He wants to put up big numbers, and sure, he wants to have a college experience and probably wants to get a degree and all of that shit. But he also wants NIL dollars, and he wants everything that comes along with it. And so, again, I just think people.
I could care less. Listen, heard the word degree again.
People are gonna rest on 2021 right now, and that's what they're gonna stand on to say there's nothing to freak out, there's nothing to worry about. Why are you guys worrying? Michigan's got it, Harbaugh's got it, whatever. But again, this is a long game, and this is where you just kind of take a look over the last couple months at where things are trending, and it doesn't seem to be trending in the right direction. Like we pay attention to these things closely. I've watched what's going on in East Lansing. They have a ton of recruiting momentum. Obviously, Ohio State is kicking ass recruiting wise. I just think for Michigan to not be in the mix on the heels of that kind of season is not acceptable. And if you're the type of fan that thinks, well, hey, everything will correct itself and Michigan's going to end up where they should be, then that's fine. You can believe that. But right now, as of today, they are not where they should be. And that's all the information we can go off of. Will they finish higher? Sure.
They will.
I believe they will. They absolutely will.
They're not going to finish 13th in the Big Ten. I understand that.
I still think it's a top 5 class in the Big Ten by the time it's all said and done. But even that is starting to look like, I could see it not happening.
I don't think there's any way possible they finish above number 4.
Well, then you know what?
Michigan State are already working on 1 through 3.
Then if that's the case, that's Harbaugh's lowest recruiting class since he's been at Michigan outside of the 2015 year when you had some of Hoke's guys coming in, which is, try to rationalize that. How is your worst recruiting year off of your best season? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, we just
unless right, it doesn't make any sense unless you think there's some validity in the fact that he checked out the NFL, that Michigan's not doing what they should be doing from an NIL standpoint, and all the other stuff we talked about. Like, it's all valid. It doesn't mean. And look, here's the other thing I want to make clear. I think when Hunter Dickinson said this, when he made his comments about Michigan's NIL philosophy, he said he felt bad for Juwan Howard and Jim Harbaugh, and that it's not the head coaches that are the biggest barrier to this. I think Jim Harbaugh is doing the best he can with what he has. But until Michigan as an institution decides to embrace, NIL, it's going to be a bit of a concern. You're going to wonder if they're going to start to fall behind to programs like a Michigan State when they shouldn't be. That's the concern. No, Adrian, the sky isn't falling, and you must have just joined because we've literally said it 6-7 times. The sky is not falling. It's okay.
The sky is not even close to falling right now because Michigan's defending champs, and they're going to be really good this year. And that's going to happen. I mean, I'd be shocked if this Michigan team talent-wise should be able to roll out of bed and win 9 games with this schedule. And I'm not trying to take away from like what they're going to do on the field because they've put themselves in a position to be this way by recruiting well, by developing guys pretty well, by getting guys in the right position. So I'm not trying to downplay what this year is going to be, but that's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about the big picture. We're talking about the long view. We're talking about, looking at this from a much higher vantage point, not just what's going to happen on the field in 2022. But yeah, like even like what Chris said earlier, it's only June. I understand, but this like Michigan should never be 13th in the Big Ten in recruiting, like ever. Right. Like, how is that even possible? Highest rated kid in the class, Raylan Wilson, down from Florida, just decommitted. Michigan does not have a player in the top 200 in the country committed right now. That's an issue, man. That's an issue at a place like Michigan coming off the season that they just came off
And
of.
you're one of 4 teams in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
I don't that to me is what I'm having trouble rationing. It's not that I think Michigan's not going to have a good recruiting class or they're not going to finish. I still think they'll finish in the top 5 in the Big Ten. But the question is, why does it look the way it looks right now? And I think we walked through that. We did a pretty good job of walking through why it probably looks the way it does.
I mean, I think to me, there's 3 big reasons, Chris. And if there's more, I'm sure there's more. But one is Harbaugh's flirtation with the NFL. Everybody is now looking at that and saying, dude, why did that have to happen? When it happened, the way it happened. I mean, if you believe the people that, Chris, that you talk to, I believe the people that I talk to, the assistant coaches were telling players and recruits that he was gone. And then he comes back. And so now they have to do damage control. And maybe not only were they telling people that, but it was like, they weren't that upset about it. I'll put it that way. And so now he's back and it's like, oh, well, we were just kidding. I mean, how do you repair what was done, what was seemingly done at that point? So that's a big deal. Harbaugh's flirtation with the NFL after winning a Big Ten title, and it just completely poked a hole in everything that was going on.
That was where it started.
That month waffling, and then it looked like he was leaving on National Signing Day. He's on a plane out to Minnesota, and then he doesn't get the job. He comes back. So there's that. There's also NIL. We just talked about that ad nauseum. Hunter Dickinson has been very outspoken. Yeah, if you don't like what we're saying, cool. That's Hunter Dickinson. That's your All-American center who said those exact words. Michigan is going to lose out on talent unless they get it together when it comes to NIL. That's not me saying that. That's not Chris. That's Hunter Dickinson.
He's an obvious Michigan hater. Dickinson.
Right. Nobody's making him say that. And he's actually probably one of the people who's doing all right with NIL. He's been out there. He's got some brands that are on his back at this point, and JJ's just like that. And there's other players. Blake Corum's done quite a bit of stuff. I mean, there are players doing all right, but how are they doing? Has Blake Corum made $50,000? Has he made $500,000? Has he made $1 million? No idea. Yeah. It'd be awesome if people would talk about that, and they can talk about it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, why would you not, as a university, why would you not want to promote the deals that your guys are getting? Why is there no effort to do that? Like, you've seen numbers and you've seen things coming out of Columbus and East Lansing that can show you what's happening. It's just like, again, it's like a big maize and blue wall that they put up, and you're just supposed to trust that the machine is functioning behind the scenes the way it should. And the fact that they won a Big Ten championship in 2021 gave some validity to that. But, you also have to look at reality and see it for what it is. And I get everybody's going to try to put their own spin on it, but man, it sure seems like it started with Jim Harbaugh looking elsewhere, and it really shot Michigan in the foot in terms of any sort of momentum they had coming off of that year.
And Lewis, I'm just going to ask because I'm not sure what you're referencing, because we've said a lot. You said you disagree. It's only my opinion. If you want to clarify, I'd love to talk about what you're referring to. I'm just not sure right there. I lied. I said there were 3 points. I think there's actually 4 points. The third one, we've talked about this, Chris, especially when it comes to the skill players, is Michigan's offensive philosophy. You're not going to get 5-star wide receivers when Andrew Anthony. We saw the ability that kid had against Michigan State. He caught a slant at about 9 yards. He took it 93, and he made the Michigan State defenders look like they were running in quicksand. That kid had 11 catches on the season. 11.
And 7 came in one game.
And you look at a guy like Xavier Worthy, which stings even a little bit more because he was committed to Michigan. He caught 65 balls as a true freshman. He's a preseason All-American as a sophomore. That's a pretty big discrepancy in what's going on. And then I think the last one, I mean, it's good in some ways because it's obviously what led Michigan to the season they had last year, but they lost both coordinators. So there's a lot of turnover at 2 very important positions when it comes to recruiting. Like, your offensive and defensive coordinators have to be killers on the recruiting trail. Those are the guys who call the plays. Those are the guys who put packages together. Those are the guys who fit pieces in to do exactly what they want to do on the field. And when you lose both of those guys, Mike McDonald back to the NFL, Josh Gaddis down to Miami. God, he must be living a dream, by the way, down there in Miami, being able to handpick basically whoever the hell they want. They're going out and giving $9 million to a 5-star quarterback so they can build an offense exactly how they want to. Anyway, I digress. When you lose two guys like that, that really hurts what you're doing on offense. And then they move other guys around. You shift Sharon Moore, you shift Ron Bellamy, you shift this guy, you shift that guy. Courtney Morgan's out. You've got a whole new. I mean, there was a lot of turnover from last year to this year. So there are multiple layers. I think I just named 4. Harbaugh's flirtation with the NFL, Michigan's reluctance to be a ball player when it comes to NIL, the offensive philosophy when you're talking about recruiting skill players specifically, quarterback, receiver, most notably, and the turnover on the staff. When you lump all of those things together, even after a season like Michigan just had, you get the 13th ranked class in the Big Ten. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen at a place like Michigan, but that's where Michigan's at right now. Chris, you sent me this picture of 3 columns of Michigan recruits. Columns that the first column is who Michigan is leading for, who Michigan is in the top 3 for, and other prospects that Michigan is kind of involved with and should have a chance with. There's like 30 some names on there, dude. I see like 5 that Michigan might get.
See, but that's the problem I have with lists when somebody just throws out, well, here's Michigan's wish list, and here are all the players that Michigan's still targeting. Well, that's a really cool list, but it doesn't mean those guys are committing. Dante Moore was on that list.
Yeah.
Cook was on that list, if I'm not mistaken.
Dante Cook was on that list.
There's 2 guys that are going. So
yeah.
You can put together lists and target lists and try to rationalize it all you want. And again, I still think that Michigan will finish with a top 5 class in the Big Ten in 2023. But if it comes in at number 5, or even if it comes in at number 4, it would still be one of Harbaugh's worst recruiting classes coming off of one of his best seasons. And I think that that's something that's worth a discussion, especially at this point in the year when that's what's happening, recruiting. You're looking around and you're looking at what other teams are doing, and NIL dollars are obviously having an impact. And as a Michigan fan, you're right. Somebody said it earlier in the comments. If Michigan's 11-0 going into Columbus this year, nobody's going to care about that recruiting class. You're right. They won't. You won't care about that class until what, 2025 or 2024, when all of a sudden Michigan goes 7-6, and you're like, how the hell did that happen? Or 7 or whatever it is. I mean, that's when it's going to. So no, nothing that we're talking about is in immediate danger to Michigan, but it does get that much harder to crawl out of a hole if you're sitting back and waiting for the NCAA or somebody else to come in and do a course correction. How long is that going to be? 6 months, a year, 2 years? How long are you going to wait for this course correction to come before you're willing to play ball? And my concern is that if Michigan continues to wait, they're just going to fall behind. And so is it too early to panic? Yeah, it's too early to panic, but it's not too early to recognize it. It's not too early to discuss it. And that's what we're doing.
I'm going to put together an article with a lot
I will
of
sleep just fine tonight regarding the 2023 class. I will sleep like a baby. I'm not panicking.
I'm going to put together an article with a lot of these points and different arguments that just don't really seem to add up. One of the biggest ones I see, and that's not really an argument because like I don't disagree at all, and I'm excited for the 2022 season because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think Michigan is going to win a lot of games, but as Chris just said, that's not really what this is about. While Michigan's playing football in 2022, this class is going to be sitting in a lunchroom somewhere finishing up high school. They're not on the same plane yet. You're not going to see it or feel it until probably 2025, Chris. You're probably right. 25 or 26 even down the line a little bit. Very few true freshmen come in and change the course of a program, which would be that 2023 fall and then into the 2024 season as true sophomores. Anyway, what I'm saying is there's been other arguments. One being this model's not sustainable. That's one of the biggest ones that I see where they're like, well, these boosters are paying all this money for these kids, and then that kid's going to come out and he's going to not play, or he's going to not make the sacrifices necessary. He's going to get kicked off the team. He's going to ride pine. He's going to do this. He's going to do that, whatever. Guys, boosters have been loading out money since the 50s. They've been paying players in one way or another at different places in different ways since the 50s. Boosters with lots of money that want to see their team win don't go away. They've been around. They're going to be around. They're still around. This is not a bubble that's going to burst. This is an emerging market that is going to set the tone for how college football is played in the future. This is not something that like people are waiting for Michigan to just kind of battle through these tough early stages, and then they're just going to stand triumphant with this sword on the top of a mountain as everybody else falls away and gets in trouble for doing it. No, dude. No. This is what's happening. NIL is not suddenly going to come off the table and be, we kind of screwed up with that. We're going to take it away. It ain't happening. It is not happening that way. So that's a huge argument that I see, that this model is just not going to work and people are going to stop giving money. No, they're not. Boosters have been giving money to players for decades, and now they can do it even more. Why would it go away? I mean, here's a really good example right in the backyard that Michigan fans all paid attention to. The name is escaping me. Quinn Ewers. Big-time quarterback. Dude, he got a car. He got a ton of money to go to Ohio State. He took 2 snaps as a freshman. Peace out. I'm going to Texas now. A couple weeks ago, Ryan Day. I need $13.5 million. Who's got me? A lot of people got him. That's who's got him. Businesses all over Columbus. Ohio State alumni all over the place are going to give up as much money as necessary to put a roster on the field that Ryan Day is happy with. Why would that ever stop? Why are people going to stop doing that? That doesn't make any sense.
They won't. That's the thing. They won't unless you're one of those people that thinks that there's, and that was a great analogy, that when this course correction comes, Michigan's going to be left standing as the gold standard in how NIL should be done. And I think, man, that is so stereotypical of just this fan base in general and the way they view things. Is they always seem to think that, like, even with the Big Ten championship last year, it was like that was 7 years in the making. Like, see, it worked. Like, okay, it worked, but it took a while. Like, there always seems to be this sense that Michigan is doing things better than everybody else, but they're just not showing it or explaining it because Michigan doesn't need to do that. And in today's college football, when marketing matters and NIL matters and social media is big, and you've got kids in East Lansing on the football field taking pictures with goats and Ferraris. Look, it looks like a clown show. I get it. But the kids are eating that shit up, and it's reflecting on the recruiting trail. And so, again, I think Michigan's biggest issue, you named off 4 issues, and I think, Harbaugh leaving, those are all valid. But at the end of the day, I think Michigan has a really, really big messaging problem on NIL. And for some odd reason, they've decided to go this transformative, not transactional. And I can't get by it as a fan. And I think there's probably a lot of recruits who heard that and said, it's not for me. It's not for me. Because I want to go get an education, but I want to get paid and I want to get the ball a lot. And if I'm looking at Oregon, Texas, or Michigan, Michigan's probably 3rd on that list.
Yeah.
And you know what the worst part is? It's self-inflicted.
Yeah, it's completely self-inflicted. Enforcing rules and putting things into place that, frankly, don't exist. I wanted to look at this real quick. Today's June 29th. Tyler Thompson, did that kid commit today? I might have to look that up. So Tyler Thompson, 3-star edge rusher. I think he's actually underrated if I remember watching his film. He's super long, athletic. Was supposed to have his announcement today. Okay. So Michigan was in the lead for him for a while. It looked like he committed to North Carolina today. Okay, so there was another one. That kid was high on Michigan's board. Tomorrow, my birthday, by the way. Just want to throw that out there, June 30th. Thank you, everybody. I'll be 38 years old. If anybody wants to bless the homie, Cash App, whatever. Tomorrow, Charles Jadusa, 4-star, 5-star offensive lineman, got Michigan in his group, took an official visit. He's projected to pick Notre Dame. Michigan's not getting that kid. Jackson Howard, another edge rusher, July 1st, just took an official visit to Michigan, not expected to pick the Wolverines. Frederick Moore, kid is way down the board for Michigan. He's a 3-star wide receiver. He's not very fast. He doesn't have very good track times. I mean, Michigan had Jonte Cook and Jalen Brown and several other guys at the top of the board. They're not getting those guys. So Frederick Moore, that might be a Michigan win on the recruiting trail, but he's not even really one of their top targets. And he's kind of it sounds bad. I'm not trying to disparage the kid, but it's like a default take at this point because you got to get somebody. you got to get somebody at wide receiver, and he looks like maybe one that they'll get. Collins Achipong, I'm probably saying his name incorrectly. It's a really strange last name. He's set to commit on July 1st. Michigan has been in the lead for that kid for a long time. He's like David Ojabo 2.0 in terms of his story. Born out of the country, came to the U.S., was a basketball guy, was a soccer guy. Now he's long, athletic, looks like a freak show in the uniform. Guess where he's leaning now, it looks like? Miami. They went down to Miami. They loved it. I think Michigan still got a shot there, but that was like a slam dunk. Like there was some thoughts that he might, tell the staff that he's committing while he was on campus, even though he's not going to announce it until the 1st. And then Amir Herring, the 4-star interior offensive lineman from West Bloomfield. I actually do think Michigan's going to land him, but that's another one of those like layup kids. That's a West Bloomfield kid. That's a Michigan kid. He played for Ron Bellamy. Like that's the kind of kid that Michigan should be able to get no matter what. And they probably will. But honestly, like if you're Amir Herring and you grew up your whole life loving Michigan, and all of a sudden, like, I don't know, Clemson or somebody comes along and says, hey, you can come to our school. We got good football. You still get a pretty good education. And oh, by the way, we'll give you $100,000. Dude, I don't know what you do about that. And that's where we're kind of starting to see that a little bit. Other linemen, Michigan just had the Joe Moore winning offensive line last year, and all their top targets are eliminating Michigan from their group. I don't know, man. It's not going to show up this fall at all. Like at all. Michigan should kick ass this fall. But there's an issue there. And as someone who covered recruiting for a long time, there's just a massively different animal to deal with in NIL that wasn't there 2 years ago. And I think you're starting to see it right now. I mean, like I said, I think I said it earlier, programs like Stanford, horrible on the field the last couple of years. Northwestern, trash. Wake Forest, never been good. Vanderbilt, doormat of the SEC. They're recruiting better than they ever have. And you know what? All those schools I just named have a lot of smart, rich dudes that care about that school because they went there, and now they're recruiting better than they ever have. You know who else has a lot of smart, rich dudes? Michigan has more than just about everybody. And for some reason, it's not happening the same way in Ann Arbor. And it's a shame, man. It's a shame. And a lot of it's not even like up to Jim Harbaugh. It's not up to Juwan Howard. It's not up to the guys making football decisions. That's what blows. So you've got Harbaugh out there kind of championing the whole transformational versus transactional thing. Whether he believes it or not, I don't know, but he shouldn't be saying that. He's going to eliminate Michigan from lists before they even know what Michigan is. Before a kid even can spell the word Michigan, they're going to
transformative, not transactional. And you're going to have Michigan. Well, granted, Michigan did win a Big Ten championship last year. They did have a successful season, but you know how kids are these days. You can tell yourself that the Michigan degree matters and that the whole experience matters. And a lot of us still believe that. But at the end of the day, money talks, NIL talks, a high potent offense talks.
Can I just ask you a super intense question right now?
Wait, hold on, because I'm getting feedback. Give me 1 second.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Sean said that Chris is echoing. I'm going to ask Chris a question. I know what his answer. I'll wait till he comes in here because I'm talking about him now and I want him to hear this. I know what Chris's answer is in his heart. I don't know if he'll verbalize it this way because Chris is a nice guy and he doesn't want to sound like how he truly is in his heart of hearts. But I'm going to ask him, Chris, would you care if a Michigan football player never even got a degree again?
All right. Let me be honest here. I am one of those fans who does not give a shit about the academics at the University of Michigan. I don't care. And to be honest, I feel like a lot of people who say they care use that as a crutch to make up for when things come up short on the field of play. To me, I don't have diplomas in pictures of Charles Woodson walking during his graduation down in my basement. I got his jersey. I got some of the football highlight. Like I have things like that. Those are the things that matter to me. So for anybody out there who's like wants to talk about the experience at the University of Michigan, and I get they want to protect that institution and why people who are in it feel that way. On the outside looking in, I could not care less about the Michigan degree. I want to get good players here. and I want to see Michigan be successful on the football field, and I want to see them compete for national championships. This idea that it's totally cool if Michigan doesn't compete for you think John Gente Cook wants to hear that? That's the leading receiver at the University of Michigan saying, Natty's no big deal. We don't need to worry about those. But yet 5-star guys are going to want to come here and compete for what? What is the incentive? There's no NIL incentive. There's no offensive incentive to do it. Now, if you're a defensive player, you can see that Michigan's put out a ton of defensive talent. So if you're a defensive guy, I can see why you'd want to go there. But outside of that, it just seems kind of dry. And in terms of, I'm surprised you thought I wouldn't say anything about the degree. I don't care. And I feel like that's going to make me look like a bad guy, but I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter to me.
I didn't know if you'd say it so adamantly. I thought you might massage it. I thought you might massage
the teat a little bit. No, I gotta try to massage the teat a little bit. Look at that teat is old and callous. There's no massaging that teat. I'm tired of the whole degree thing. I'm tired of the academics. And again, you want to talk about academics? Dante Moore, 4.0 student. That's a kid who, if you bring him to the University of Michigan, is going to be good for the academics of the University of Michigan. And oh, by the way, you are able to finally throw the bag at him, and you won't do it.
Yeah.
And he loves Michigan. Grew up in Michigan. Devin Gardner is what? His big brother? Come on.
I'm with you. I don't care at all. I don't care at all. And I went to Central. You didn't go to Michigan either. I wonder for people who graduated from Michigan and do have that Michigan degree hanging on their wall, if they would truly, truly answer that question in a different way.
I think they would.
I don't think it matters because, if you're recruiting the right way, these kids don't grow up Michigan fans. They don't care about a Michigan degree. Even when they get there, they might not, because every single one of them's leaving early to go to the NFL if they can.
Or transferring to go. Yeah.
So, even the ones who are at Michigan, do they really care that much? Do they? Abby, do they? Freaking do they?
Here's the thing. I think the people that are there
early after year 3, they're going.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I think if you could choose, if you would ask a lot of the guys, if you could choose between your Michigan degree or, heading to the league, I think, the degree goes by the wayside. Like, these guys want to go play in the league. Some of these guys are going to Michigan for the degree and they know they're going to go on to do other things. But in the grand scheme of things, man, no, Cody, I don't care.
That's another layer. Yeah. It's not like they're going to Ross. Some do. Like, there's very few. But, even Jim Harbaugh, the current head coach, trashed how Michigan pushes the players through the educational part of being a student when he was at Stanford. So, again, it's not us saying it. That's the head coach who said that. And he went there. Come on, man. Like, this is not a new concept. If you say, I cannot believe Braylon Edwards uttered those words. What's the word?
Disappointment? It's a disappointment coming from a guy like that who had such a prolific career. Again, I feel like if you're looking, if you're a young kid, you're looking at that guy thinking, man, he caught, what was it, 97 balls or whatever that, his top season. You're thinking even that guy is saying national championships don't matter. Where does this? I just don't. This mindset that it's okay not to compete for natties and that the NCAA is going to come and rescue Michigan from the NIL wild, wild west. If that's the boat you're willing to ride in for the next couple of years, good luck. But we're still going to here again. Sky isn't falling, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to discuss it, and I think it's worth discussing because when student athletes mention it, when former coaches mention it, you can see it. When you can see it with your own eyes in the rankings.
Yeah. It's what everybody's talking about right now, going through the month of June that had a ton of official visits, a bunch of big-time visitors, visit photos all over the place. You've got Jonte Cook, doing the between the legs with a football in the tunnel in the number 1 jersey. 4 days later, he's a Texas commit. That's what's going on right now. It's June, about to be July. This is what's happening. It's now the dead period, so there's no more visits taking place. Recruiting is going to cool down a little bit. By the way, I wanted to ask you this, Chris. While Michigan fans everywhere are falling apart, thinking the sky is falling, we're pointing out all the shortcomings that are sure to be on the field in a couple of years. Everything's awful. And then you've got Jim Harbaugh out on TikTok mowing his lawn and flying around living his best life. I just want to get your take on old Jim Harbaugh taking the fam across the country right now. I just think look, dude they work the most insane hours. He's still a human being. He's still a dad. He's still a husband. Go have your vacation during the dead period. But I do think it's kind of funny how so much is being talked about right now with Michigan's recruiting class, and they're missing out on guys and they're losing commits. And then at the same time, all these different videos are popping up of Harbaugh just doing
like floating in a pool, like staring off into space.
In the airport, like eating a corn on the cob, like just going to town.
I mean, hey, you're right. You know, everybody deserves a vacation. I'm not going to hate on the guy. You know, it is what it is. I'm still a little bit bitter about the NFL flirtation. I don't have problems with the vacations. It was the NFL flirtation. I felt like it just, I'm not going to revisit that, beat that dead horse, but you're here at Michigan for so long. You struggle to get over the hump. You finally do it, and you use that as an opportunity to try and leave. And I think that's where all the momentum stops. And then now you have the NIL stuff and some of the other things, and you can see the result of it. So should he be on vacation? Yeah, he should absolutely be on vacation. But,
I just think
what he needs to do is change his messaging on NIL. That's what he needs to do. That's what, go down, have your vacation, consult with some people maybe down there. Where is he at? Where is he vacationing? California?
I'm actually not sure. Yeah.
Okay, wherever he's at, consult with some people who know how NIL is supposed to work and get some tips and bring it back to Ann Arbor. And let's get this thing going, man. There's no reason why we shouldn't be playing the game when it's legal to do so. You can finally do it.
Chris,
and Michigan should be doing it better than almost anybody.
Chris, I'm going to ask you something, and it's going to trigger you. It's going to make you real mad. Are you ready for it? Are you ready for me to point this out? You know what
I've been pissed all day. I'm ready.
You know what you want?
Let's hear it.
You want Jim Harbaugh to be Mel Tucker.
No.
You want Jim Harbaugh to be Mel Tucker.
No, because Jim Harbaugh would look like a clown doing what Mel Tucker kind of looks like a clown doing, but he's got some cool so he can pull it off. But I'm telling you, like the photo shoots with the dogs and the gold chains and the cars, and it's like, come on, Mel, like, this guy likes to be on camera. Okay. I don't want Jim Harbaugh to be that. But what I do want Jim Harbaugh is, instead of standing in front of a group of reporters and saying transformative, not transactional, I want him to say, I've got a quarterback who hasn't even started yet that signed a deal with DirecTV for X amount. I've got these deals, my players have deals going on. There needs to be better messaging coming out of Michigan, because we know NIL deals are happening, but nobody knows about them. The marketing, the messaging is awful.
Yeah. And CS, I just can't get on board with this closed-minded thinking approach. Nobody cares about the class of 2023. It's only about the 2022.
Well, define nobody. Like who's nobody?
The 2022 class are the current freshmen. And while I see what you're saying, because those kids are already at Michigan, they're playing for the team right now. They are going to be on the field this fall, and they're going to be good. What are you going to say in 2025 after Michigan's put together 2 or 3 of the worst classes that Harbaugh's had, and they're not as talented or competitive anymore? So like, then you get to care about it. Like you can't wait to be good at recruiting like a week before the kids graduate high school. You have to care about that right now. You have to care about the fact that CJ Carr committed to Notre Dame instead of Michigan. You have to care about the fact that top flight recruits in 2024 are already eliminating Michigan after they just whooped everyone's ass in 2021. It's crazy that it's playing out this way. It is crazy that it's playing out this way. After Michigan just did what they did, Adrian Roberson, winning cures a lot. They just won a lot. What do you mean it's going to? They just did it. They just won a whole bunch, and it's not curing the issues. That's kind of the point.
I think that was the point. You thought the thing preventing Michigan from being able to compete with the likes of the Bamas and the Ohio States was that they couldn't get over the hump. They couldn't play ball with those guys. They finally do that, and you would expect to see a bump on the recruiting trail. And instead it might end up being the worst class that Harbaugh's had. I mean, that's what it's trending towards. I know it's June. I know they got a lot of guys last year after this point in time, but when you look at who's left on the board, even if they got a bunch of guys that don't look like they're coming right now,
it's not going to be as good. You can go through and do the math and go down the list. They're not in contention for any real 5-star kids like they were last year. Will Johnson, I think was there one more 5-star last year? Or was
they were well, who the hell? He went out to USC.
Oh, Damani Jackson. I mean, yeah, they
Damani,
were involved with him, but they didn't. I'm talking about guys that they got. So on the board right now for Michigan for 5-star talent, Nicholas Harbaugh is the freak show edge rush. I just look at a kid like that and I'm like, why would he pick Michigan? You got a little bit more of an argument with the edge rusher thing because of what we just saw with Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo. But again, if schools are coming at him and talking about this kind of money and then he's not getting that from Michigan, I just can't imagine a scenario where the kid's like, you know what? I just love Michigan that much. I'm going there. Dude, that's going to be
no. Yeah. Yeah. And you're seeing it. It's a hard sell for guys who grew up in the state.
Yeah.
Michigan fans who are going to play college football somewhere. It's a tough sell to sell it to those guys. So an out-of-state kid isn't going to give a shit.
Jaylen Brown, the 5-star wide receiver who just visited recently. I mean, I can't imagine his is going to go much different than Jonte Cook's, where, you know, there's a big-time quarterback in the fold. You've got some NIL money closer to home. I can't remember what his top group looks like right now, but and then there's Dante Moore, and then there's Jonte Cook, who Jonte Cook just committed to Texas. Dante Moore looks like an Oregon lean at this point, and that's it for the 5-star kids. So you're not getting any big 5-star bumps down the road, in my opinion. And then when you start going through the highly ranked 4-star kids, there's not a lot of those either. Amir Herring will be a nice get on July 7th if he picks Michigan. There are a few others, but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen the way that it did last year. And I think it's okay to talk about that right now, even though it is only June. I mean, that's what recruiting is. I mean, the whole recruiting industry is looking at each kid, going through what they've been doing interviews with them, hearing what they're saying. You make a prediction. That's what recruiting is. Covering recruiting is exactly that. And if you can look at where those kids are projected to go right now, there's not very many that are leaning towards Michigan anymore. And if they were at one point, it's changed, or, you know, whatever has happened, but it's worrisome. It's worrisome for the 2023 class, which will eventually rear its head in future seasons. Not this year, not next year, but 2024, 2025, that's when you're going to start seeing some problems. And who knows, man? If Jim Harbaugh gets an NFL job offer, is he even here by then? I mean, that's another one of these angles that we've been talking about that seems to be leading to some of these problems. I don't know, man. Do we suck, Chris? Just tell us we suck, dude. We suck. Why are we doing
look, I think we already said we both expect Michigan to have a hell of a year coming up. We expect them to be, you know, possibly undefeated going into Columbus. And so, no, look, being a good fan doesn't mean you're hanging on the jockstrap of every single move that Jim Harbaugh makes or the Michigan football team makes. I mean, it's okay to have these discussions, and when things aren't going right, it's okay to say it. And like we said earlier in the show, at no point in time, whether it's June, July, August, should Michigan ever be 13th in recruiting rankings. Who is it? Indiana is the only team below them?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So, I mean, coming off of the year they came off of, that's one thing. But even if that didn't happen last year, Michigan should not be in the position that it's in right now. Will it change? Yes, it will change. But right now it's a little bit concerning. And I don't think that makes us assholes, Brandon, for acknowledging it and saying it. I think it's just being able to look at reality and see things for what they are.
So Daniel Harris is another one. I mean, this is a top 50 kid, big-time cornerback prospect. Took his official visit to Michigan like a week ago. He's committing on July 1st. His Final Four is Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, Georgia. Good luck, Michigan. I mean, dude, those schools are just playing a different game right now. They're just playing a different game right now, and
you know what sucks?
They're allowed.
Is that Michigan, outside of one program you named, Michigan handled their business against everybody else on that list, right? So the fact that Michigan is viewed in that list as like the least favorite, it's mind-blowing to me. I feel like this program finally got to where it was trying to get to, and then the fruits of all of that work they're not hitting on the recruiting trail.
And then I think this is unfair, though. So Sean's asking, okay, who do you want to coach? I'm not really willing to have that discussion at this point about who's going to coach instead of Harbaugh. I had that discussion before when I thought he should be out of a job. I don't think he should be out of a job now. And not even close. So I think that discussion would be unfair. I don't think this discussion about what's going on with recruiting is unfair, even though Michigan did really well last year, even though it's only June, even though they're going to improve, they're going to be better. I mean, like you said, Michigan is not going to finish behind Illinois in the recruiting rankings in the Big Ten. They are not going to finish behind Rutgers. They are not going to finish behind Indiana, Maryland. They might finish behind 4 or 5 other schools, though, that they have not finished behind before. And that's noteworthy. Ohio State, they're going to be Ohio State. Penn State, they're always right up there with Michigan. If Michigan State has a better recruiting class than Michigan this year, that's an issue because that doesn't happen. If Wisconsin somehow does, Iowa somehow does, that's a problem. Those schools don't recruit like Michigan recruits, and I think there's a chance that you might see that out of some of those other schools. And that's a problem, man. That is a clear sign of a changing of the guard, a changing of the way that things are done. And again, you're not going to see it on the field for a couple years, but it's, recruiting is a projection. It's way down the road. You got to get the studs now to be good with them in 2 or 3 years. That's how it works. And once you do that over and over and over again, you're just good every year. See Ohio State, see Alabama, see Georgia, see Clemson. That's why they were able to be good for so long, because you just stack those dudes up year after year after year. Michigan's just not stacking them up right now. Nobody inside the top 200, 13th out of 14th in the Big Ten, 55th nationally. I mean, like, I rattled off some schools that are ahead of Michigan right now, and they're not going to finish ahead of Michigan. But again, it's like what Chris said. It doesn't really matter what time of the year. Should Michigan really be behind every school in the Big Ten in recruiting except for one? I can't think of a reason why that would ever be the case. I don't know.
Same. I look at that, and to me, that seems unacceptable. You can say it's June all you want, but I just feel like that's not a spot Michigan should be in. And again, I feel like we're just beating a dead horse. But when you add in the success of last year, it's really perplexing unless you go through the offseason, you start to look at some things, and then it makes sense.
I wanted to ask you about this, Chris, and this will probably be one of the last things we talk about. I don't remember who said it earlier. There was somebody in the comments that mentioned this, and we've kind of hinted at it a little bit, the marketing and the way things are kind of discussed or not discussed at Michigan when it comes to NIL. It's almost like JJ comes to mind immediately because we know he's done well with the NIL stuff. We've obviously seen Blake Corum, announce that he's had some partnerships. There's been other guys. I mean, we were just at an event a couple weekends ago where 3 players were up there. That was an NIL event. You don't really see the players talking about it from an NIL standpoint at all. Why is it that you think Michigan players are so like hush hush or so apt to talk or so so apprehensive to talk about what they're doing on the NIL trail?
Part of me thinks it's because some of them are confused about what the messaging can even be. I mean, we did a sit-down interview with a few players. We've had a number of players on our podcast. And I feel like when I've asked about NIL, there always seems to be like they're not quite sure what they're able to do, what they can't do. There seems to be some gray area. So, I don't know why the messaging is what it is, but to me, it's consistent across the board from the top on down. None of these guys are talking about their NIL deals in terms of.
This is what Cody's saying, and that's the point I was trying to get.
Well, I mean, but I don't know that that's the case. I don't know that they're being told not to, but I haven't heard anybody. I haven't seen any dollar amount be put on any of these NIL deals that these guys have signed. And to me, it's like, why wouldn't you do that? Like, that is valuable marketing in today's college football, where if one of your players signs a 6-figure deal, you would want that out there. Yeah, so that dickheads like us can write an article about it and promote it and say, look how much money Michigan players are making. But we can't do that. All we have to do is guess and speculate, and what we can go off of our recruiting rankings.
Michigan is very good and very polished at uniform messages from the team. I've seen it for 9 years now. You go to the press conferences, if there's some kind of hot button topic, something, we got to ask about this, you will literally see the players being told as they come out, we're not talking about that. And we've been reprimanded at press conferences before. You're not allowed to ask about that. Like, what the hell are we doing? And so the messages are very, very controlled coming out of Schembechler Hall. And the fact that, Chris, what you said, we have never seen a dollar amount attached to any one of these Michigan players with their NIL deals leads me to believe that it's crystal clear that it's on purpose. They're being told not to talk about it. You can't talk about it. It's not a good look. I don't want it to say that like the Michigan players would be like bragging about it, but that's how it might be. That's how it might come off. And Michigan wants no part of that. No part of that.
Bad decision.
So, oh boy, I just want to watch football. It's going to be here soon enough. I think we're inside 75 days at this point. Is that right?
Yeah. I think we're inside the 60s.
Is it 60s now? Okay, maybe it is in the 60s.
I think so.
It's not that far off, but it's June, man. It's June and July. This is the kind of stuff that comes up right now. And when, Michigan has a decommitment and 2 targets are committing elsewhere and other guys are axing Michigan off the final group.
I mean, here's the thing. If Michigan was crushing it on the recruiting trail, what do you think
we're talking about that? Yeah,
I was gonna say, what do you think this show is about? It's Michigan killing it on the recruiting trail. And here's why beating Ohio State and getting to the Big Ten championship matters, because here's we're not, I would love to have those conversations.
Do you know how much I would love to be talking about Jonte Cook spurning the Longhorn to be a Wolverine?
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I put an article up. The kid looked like a freaking All-American in the Michigan uniform. He looked like he was born to wear that number 1 and make plays in the big house. But he's going to Texas. He's from Texas. He's going to Texas. You got Arch Manning. You got oil money. You got Sark's offense. Go be a star, kid. Go be Xavier Worthy 2.0. Go catch 70 balls as a true freshman. It's not hard to understand. It's not hard to understand. But you're right. If Michigan had the number 1 class in the Big Ten right now, dude, we'd be talking shit about everybody.
Yes. That's what I prefer to do. I want to do that. I want Michigan to be, we want Michigan to do well on the recruiting trail, but if they're not, we're certainly not going to sit here and say that they are.
We'll see. Michigan does have several targets coming up to their recruiting.
Yep.
Their commitment days. Sorry, not recruiting. Their commitment dates are coming up. Got a couple on, got at least one on the 30th tomorrow. Again, my birthday. I'll throw that Cash App up there one more time for you.
Shameless. Look at this guy.
Hey, look, man.
This is the equivalent of panhandling on social media.
Damn it, I thought I had a bucket right here I could hold up and shake it back.
Gas prices are high and boots on the ground brown.
Gas prices are high. Hey, look, we're not all getting free rooms at the Grand Traverse, all right? I need to make a little money over here, bro. I mean, I got the light blue shirt on. Mine's Amazon. Yours is Gucci. What are we doing? Give your boy some coin.
Help him out.
Help
him out for his birthday.
We're both doing fine.
We'll be all right.
Throw me a bag. I feel like I'm a Michigan athlete trying to get paid right now.
Somewhere out there, Brandon, is a bag man looking for you.
There's a bag man with my name on it. I'm trying to find it. Anyway, I'm turning 38 tomorrow. No one cares. I don't care. I don't expect you to care. Chris has been 38.
At this point, yeah, it don't matter at this point.
Anyway, thanks for sticking with us tonight.
Thank you.
Battled through the debacle that was the 7 p.m. start, and
great show. A lot of people came back. A lot of our favorite people came back. CJ, Darren, all you guys on here, man. Always appreciate having you.
I think we hit a home run in the 8 o'clock hour. And actually, Chris, I saw a couple people saying that they like the 8 o'clock hour better. And
they like that 8 o'clock hour.
On.
Okay. Maybe that's, yeah, in the comments, if you guys like 8 as opposed to 7, let us know. Maybe we can make an adjustment here.
We're not really married to the 7 o'clock.
Give Brandon a little more time to finish his chicken nuggets before we hop on.
Finish some nugs, dude. Hammer down some diesel, dude. Get the battery charged up.
Once again, we've out-talked the outro music.
Put on a bargain bin shirt to go up against Chris's designer drip, dude. I'm just trying to make it, man. We're all just trying to make it.
Just a man in this cruel world.
Well, there's the outro music starting again. Let's get the hell out of here. I'm going to eat something. Take care, everybody. We'll be back next week on Wednesday.